will implement a 20% increase in tobacco excise duty across all tobacco products with effect from today.
When Lawrence Wong stood up in Parliament and said so, many smokers immediately felt anger and frustration. And honestly, I understand why. And the prices jump overnight, it feels less like public policy and more like punishment. After this increase, tobacco excise duty is about 58.9 cents per stick. Nearly $12 goes straight to the state. So, it's not surprising that some smokers say,
if the government really cared about our health, they would have banned cigarettes long ago. They haven't because they can't afford to lose the tax revenue.
That argument sounds intuitive, but when you slow down and really examine it, it doesn't quite hold up. Let me explain why, and I will start with myself. I smoked for about 15 years. I started smoking when a pack of Pomo cost around $8.80. Back then, cigarettes felt cheap enough not to think about. Year after year, prices climb up slowly, not dramatically, not suddenly, just enough to be annoying. Eventually, even cheaper brands such as Viceroy were around $13 a pack. I wasn't even a heavy smoker, roughly one pack every 2 days, but one day I did the math. That habit was costing me around $2,300 a year. And that number hits me hard because $2,300 isn't abstract. It's roughly the price of a return ticket for my family to Bali Island. I realized that I was literally burning away a holiday, plus damaging my health at the same time. So when no one lectured me, the price simply forced me to pause and ask, is this still worth it? And honestly, if cigarettes were still $8 or $9 today, I'm not sure I would have quit it as early as I did. This is where the government just want tax money arguments start to crack. If the government truly wanted stable, long-term revenue, the worst thing it could do would be to keep rising prices. Stable revenue comes from stable consumption. You keep prices predictable, you normalize the habit, and you let people smoke comfortably for decades. That's how you protect a cash cow. But that's not what's happening over here. Tobacco excise duty has been raised repeatedly over the years. Fully aware that high prices push people to smoke less, quit, or never start at all. In other words, tobacco tax is a self-shrinking revenue source. If the policy works, revenue eventually falls. On top of that, Singapore has spent decades actively fighting contraband cigarettes, which directly undermine tax collection. Back in 2009, the government introduced the SDPC marking, stamping every legal cigarette in Singapore. I still remember one of my smoker friends ever told the rest of us, half jokingly, he said,
"Hey, please just buy the local cigarette. Later the government tattoo the entire cigarette like an Angkong Xiao."
That joke actually proves a very serious point. Smokers themselves started discouraging contraband use because enforcement was real and the consequences were severe. If the government only cared about collecting money, contraband cigarettes would be an inconvenience. Instead, Singapore spends resources eliminating them, which again makes no sense if revenue is the sole objective.
Then there are the warning graphics on cigarette packaging. Let's be honest, those scary pictures don't really scare many smokers. Most smokers already know the risks, but the packaging does something else that matters. It makes smoking look uncool. Many smokers around me didn't start smoking because of their taste. They start because it looked rebellious, mature, or fashionable. Once cigarettes stop looking cool, fewer young people pick up the habit in the first place. That's where the biggest long-term health gain comes from. Prevention, not conversion. This same logic explains why a total ban on cigarettes is extremely unlikely. From a policy perspective, bans don't eliminate demand. They push it on the ground. Black markets flourish, organized crime steps in, quality control disappear, and enforcement costs explode. Singapore's approach has always been harm reduction, discourage, prevent, stigmatize.
Chao smoker.
That's why the government has been so aggressive against newer nicotine products like vapes. The goal is not to moralize, but to prevent new form of addiction from replacing the old ones. Next time when smokers say,
"The government doesn't care about our health,"
I think that reaction comes from frustration, not from evidence. I respect smokers' choices. I was a smoker myself for 15 years. I know quitting isn't easy, and I know price hike feel unfair when you are already addicted. But from my own experience, higher prices didn't make my life worse. They made me stop, think, and eventually quit. Quitting smoking made my life cheaper, easier, and healthier. And for me, price wasn't cruelty. It was the push that finally worked.